Starline presents The Brass Facts.
Hi, I'm Hunter Pilant, and today on Starline's The Brass Facts, we're going to look at how to sight in a scoped rifle or handgun. The first step when sighting in a scoped rifle or handgun is to be sure that the scope rings and bases are tightened to the manufacturer's recommendations. Factory-mounted bases aren't always tightened down properly from the factory, so don't assume that they are. After verifying that everything has been installed and tightened properly, I will bore sight the rifle if possible. Over the years, many tools have been produced to aid in bore sighting, such as laser bore sighters, but I prefer to do it by eye. For AR-style rifles, separate the upper and lower receiver and remove the bolt. For bolt-action rifles, just remove the bolt. I like to bore sight my rifles in at 100 yards. With the rifle mounted securely, center the bullseye of a target in the bore. You can then adjust the scope until the crosshairs are centered in the bullseye, being sure that the bullseye is still centered in the bore. Smaller bore rifles are generally the easiest to bore sight since you can more accurately center the bullseye in the bore. The larger the bore and the shorter the barrel, the harder it is to bore sight. You will also find that it is easier to bore sight a rifle with a high magnification scope than a rifle with a low magnification or red dot scope. On a rifle that I am confident will be close to zeroed, I will shoot at a large, clean target at 100 yards, closer if it's rimfire, to finish dialing it in. This is where it is important to know the adjustment increments of your scope. On the windage and elevation turrets, it should be labeled the distance the point of impact will be moved at 100 yards. If the scope has 1/4 inch per click adjustments, you will have to move the scope 4 clicks to move the bullet 1 inch at 100 yards. If you're shooting at 200 yards, you only need to adjust the scope 2 clicks to move the point of impact 1 inch. At 50 yards, it would take 8 clicks to move the point of impact 1 inch. Obviously, a scope that has 1/8 inch adjustments will take twice as many clicks to move the bullet 1 inch at those distances. This scope happens to have 0.1 mil adjustments. 1 mil equals 3.6 inches at 100 yards, so each click on this scope will equal 0.36 inches, or about 1/3 of an inch at 100 yards. On a rifle that I am not able to bore sight by eye, such as lever-action rifles, I will set up a large, clean target at about 25 yards and start shooting and adjusting the scope, keeping in mind that the scope adjustments will only move the point of impact 1/4 of what they would be at 100 yards. You should adjust your windage to be exactly center, but leave the elevation slightly low by 1 to 2 inches. This is to account for the bullet path still being below the line of sight, so the bullet is still rising. You can then move out to a longer distance and zero the rifle as desired. I prefer to sight most of my centerfire rifles in to about 2 inches high at 100 yards. This zero will allow me to hold pretty much dead on out to about 250 yards while hunting. If you are in an area where you may be shooting farther than 200 yards or so, a quality exterior ballistics program can really help determine where you should zero your rifle at, based on the distances you expect to be shooting, and it will show you how high you should hold on the longer shots. This scope also has a mil-dot reticle, so I will actually zero it for 100 yards and then use the aiming points on the reticle for 200 to 500 yards. Thanks for watching, and be sure to check us out online at starlinebrass.com.